Yes, how's everyone doing? Slightly different today. No, we're not on the Just Joe Football Show. This is not me and Andrea and Joe's just lagged out. This is my channel, and me and Andrea we've been speaking about this for on and off for a while, haven't we? About getting something like this going. We just feel there's a bit of a space for a different maybe type of conversation, maybe go into more detail about certain things, maybe calmer. Hopefully it doesn't get irate. It won't. But we feel like there's a good little space for us to have a chat. We always we chat. Honestly, mate, you could tell the people as well endlessly about football away
Yeah,
from
I can
stream.
confirm that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Endless, I
honestly,
think endless is the good term for that.
yeah.
100%.
So we just thought
Yeah.
we'll still do that, but we thought we can bring some of that conversation into a nice little separate space. So that's what we're going to do. We ain't got a name yet. We'll figure that out. This is just kind of a pilot during the international break, like a soft launch, if you like. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of stuff we want to talk about, not just about the games necessarily, but about the mindset behind everything in football, decisions, learning, formations, the tactical side of it, obviously, just real conversations about stuff that is, quite complex, I guess. And look, the reason I like doing this, I don't have all the answers, but I want to learn. That's one thing for me. I love listening to podcasts from people that work in industry. You learn from them. You take stuff and you learn from it. So, yeah, let's get into it, I guess, Andrea. One
Yeah,
thing
absolutely.
we're going to do first is just a little introduction as to you, who you are, why you love football, why you're in football. Shoot away, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's a pleasure. I think, like you said, we've been speaking for this for a while, so finally to get it started, it's very exciting for me because you know how much I value and trust your opinion, and you can see that by how many times we exchanged views and opinions on certain things about football. So that's why we talk. Why not share those opinions and conversations to the public with topics more in detail? Me and you, I think both of us have started to get involved in football, having worked in football, working in football. So yeah, honestly, for me, it started many years ago. My full name, people know that now, especially the Leeds fans. But yeah, my full name is Andrea Russo. I am Italian, so I can bring also that defensive mindset into no, not the defensive mindset, but yeah, that defensive catenaccio side into this podcast. But yeah, I come from a football family because my grandfather, my mom's father, who unfortunately I never met because he unfortunately died, passed away 5 years before I was born. He played over 200 games in Serie A for Vicenza, Palermo and Vicenza mainly. Also played for my local team Reggiana, so that's where the football starts. Started in my family, he is the patriarch, of
Yeah.
football in my family. My dad too used to play only at youth level for Reggiana, never made it professionally, unfortunately, because he had a bad hernia injury in the
Right.
80s. He had an offer from a Serie B side, but the transfer didn't happen because of that injury, so he only played in non-league. Then after that injury, locally. After that, he had his career, in football as director of football and CEO in mainly three clubs, basically: San Remese, Spezia, who some people may know because they played recently many seasons between Serie A and Serie B, and later. And I was lucky we worked together on that specific one at Reggiana, our local club, of course. So yeah, that's where football basically was transferred to me. So I've been a journalist, currently a TV pundit here in Italy, podcaster, pundit, contributor, to many, especially the Just Your Football show, of course, with the Final World, but other podcasts too in the space. But yeah, basically the love of football for me started with Alessandro Del Piero, who used to be my favorite player. Then I saw the ultras here in Italy, but at one point, I just felt a disaffection towards Italian football.
Right.
And I always loved England. So in the mid-20s, the mid 2000s. I think around 2008, 2007, when I was able to watch the first games here in Italy of Leeds. That's when I became a Leeds fan and got interested also in the lower leagues, because these were in the lower leagues at the time of English football, because before that I can only saw via Sky Italy, Telepiù used to be called, Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, those clubs on UCL. But after that, it was love at first sight for Leeds, and it has been ever since. So yeah, and with football I was lucky, to play it at a very young level, to watch it multiple times in various facilities, and I think the best position that I covered in football has been head of social media, Reggiana, because when you mix media communication with football, you can really be a vehicle to transfer your passion, to transfer the power of football to the people that follow the team, and that's nothing better, trust me, to veiculate and to transfer messages, the mentality of the club, and make people feel part of the club with social media. So honestly, that was the best time that I had in football. I don't know about you. I know you had a similar but different journey in a certain way, approaching football in your own way.
Yeah, honestly, there's loads there. And as we go on in the weeks when we do this, we'll delve into more specific areas. I'm sure we can talk more about backgrounds and stuff like that, because I love just learning about people and why they love this sport. That's something to me. Why football? Why does it capture so many people? I absolutely love it. But yeah, for me, mate, it's, to be honest, my dad used to play. It was called Sunday League here, like pub league. So you'd all be part
I
of a
know
pub
that.
team. Yeah. So I grew up at 4 or 5, going to them games around that tough environment, watching football, proper football, where there's a lot of dangerous tackles going in, there's a lot of fights. But then at the end of it, this was the best thing about it. No matter what happened in the game, they'd all go to the pub afterwards with the opposition and just chat and have a laugh. They'd all be mates. So that was something that for me showed that football it's more, on the pitch, it's your job, but it's about respect. It's about learning from others. And we're all here for the same reason, is to love this sport. So that's something that really stuck with me when I was a young lad. And then from there, I started playing when I was 5. So yeah, and I stopped playing about a year ago after uni, just because I wanted to get into the more coaching side of it. And then at university, really, mate, where I started, I was quite late into it. Because like I said, I was just bothered about playing. I just deluded, probably is the word, but I just wanted to be a professional footballer. And when you're at 21, I got to the age where I'm going, right, yeah, this is going to happen. And when I say professional, I don't mean Premier League. I mean, third tier in some European league, or
Serie
Asia.
C, Italy.
Yeah, somewhere like that. I wanted to get paid for the game. That was a thing. But then you realise, when you're good enough, then you should probably stop. But when it got to that point, because I used to play at college, and I used to absolutely love it at college. And then after that, I went, right, what do I want to do now? I stopped with kind of the sports education, because at college I did, it was called football coaching, advanced football coaching. So we learned all about football and stuff like that. So it's always there. And I took 2 years out to go to work at Sainsbury's to save money up, went to university. And that's where that aligned with my kind of passion to learn more about the game, learn about, why is this decision made? What is a coach? What is their role? What is their responsibility? As a player, what is your job? What is your role? Mentality, all that stuff. So went to university, and at university, you're surrounded by people who work in the game. Your lecturers, they've worked at, and lecturers where I worked at Manchester United, Manchester City, they worked for the national team, and you learn a lot from them. You learn so much about the game. Got into performance analysis when I was there. So there was a football team at university, and I was the performance analyst for the second team. And you had all the equipment, and my job was to analyze the games. We did opposition analysis, we did team analysis, individual player analysis. And I'm watching a game, 3 times over? You learn a lot, and you watch the entire thing. But then you'll watch individuals the second time, then you'll watch maybe the defense, then the opposition. And I used to create PowerPoints and then perform it to the players, show the players. And it was all aligned in, it made me realize what a team effort is in football and how important it is that you as an analyst, whether you're an analyst, nutritionist, you're all aligned with the philosophy of the club, or in my case, the team at university. You know, our head manager, our head coach, Dan, who was a legend, by the way, big up Dan. You're probably not watching, but he wanted a culture, and we had our own team philosophy, our own plan. We presented it to the players. This is what we want to be. This is what we are as a team. And although we're not the biggest uni, we didn't have the best players, you know, in terms of academy, that all went to the first team. We had an excellent culture. Everyone got on, you know, everyone was friends. When the game ended, everyone got on. We went out together. You really understood the idea of a team and what that means in football. Like I said, when I was younger, learning about that from a young player and then playing it. And by the way, I was a horrible player. I was not about the team.
Probably better than me, probably. Was
But
just an art tackle player, you know, number
yeah.
6. Yeah.
If Jer's watching, he knows I had to go at him at the charity game for telling me to head the ball, which is very reasonable, but I didn't want to head the ball. But anyway, big up Jer. He's a real leader, not me. But I learned how difficult it is. It is hard. It's a lot of hard work. And then from there, I got into scouting. So I worked in the EFL now for, I'll be going on 2.5 years. Worked in women's football for a bit, which was a great experience to learn that side of the game as well. Really, really good experience. But moved into men's football, worked in the EFL for 2 different clubs. Now at my second, I'm not going to mention, just, I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
I won't. So, and from that, I've learned about, you know, the scouting side of it, the decisions that are made, how much goes into finding players. So, yeah, that's kind of me. And now I'm coaching as well now. That's a new thing. Now I'm gaining confidence. I'm loving coaching now. I absolutely love coaching. I've been coaching. I coached before uni, to be fair, at Brighouse with my dad and the other coach there. So but I was really young then, but I learned how to be personal with players there. I learned how, because I was, 18, 19, and the players were 14, 15, 13, 14. So I learned, you know, I knew from playing what they might be thinking, what they might be going through, which helped them have someone around the team like that. So I took that into scouting and analysis now. So that's me, mate. That's us. I guess short. It's 12 minutes. But yeah. But now we're on a journey, aren't we? Where I don't know what's going to happen next. I love scouting. I love analysis, but I'm really starting to love coaching. I work now in Manchester at a coaching company with kids from 18 to 16, so you get a real range, and I love it. So maybe that's the future now. I'm not sure. I love the sport.
Yeah.
I love all of it. That's the key thing here. So yeah, that's me.
You have many options, and you will decide, of course, when the time is right, you know, which one suits you more, you know. But yeah, I think in the end, I'm glad that you talk about the experiences and also the mental side and the mentality, especially side in a club, because I really like the motto, no one is bigger than the club. And that can apply, you know, not just to professional clubs, but also to non-league, Sunday league clubs, because we've seen that with Steve Bracknell and Royal Oak now, you know, the unity and the joy that they brought, you know, online. And that's what I saw too when I was at Frecciana. You know, there were players that you know, was at the training ground basically every day, either to see the training sessions or film content, you know. And you had because there was a rule in back then in the Italian fourth year, you know, that you had to field you were obliged to field 4 under 20 players on the pitch due to the league rules. So we had a mix of under 20 players and veterans. Some of them, I think, just one at the time. Right now is we're talking about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. There's only still one still at the club now, but you had like players who were really hungry. They really wanted to make it into the game because they were like 18, 19, 20 years old. And there was like that were seasoned professionals. There was one who unfortunately was only with us for 4 months because he was barely playing, and he got released and then become immediately an assistant to one of the most famous agents in the football landscape, you know, Pini Zahavi. His name is Davide Grassi. He used to play. He played in Malaysia, Greece, Germany, Spain. Basically, a traveler all around, you know. So you had like the experience of those veterans transferred to the youngsters. Some of the youngsters listened to them, and they behaved like veterans after others. Unfortunately, we didn't make it into the game later on. I can see why too, because some of them were just too hungry, and for them they were just arrived because they had arrived at a big club, because we were forced to be in the fourth year after the original club. It was a Phoenix club. The original club had gone bankrupt the season before. So you see how much the right mentality plays a part in making it into the sport, not just on the pitch, but also outside of it, in coaching, in scouting, in communication. I think I call it a sea full of sharks, honestly. Or there's also another comparison can be the herd of sheep and the herd of lions. There are many people in the game who behave like yes men, unfortunately, and they don't help the club, in my point of view. Why you have to behave like a lion, and you have to voice your opinion, because you really help the club when you make a brick, take a brick to the wall and help build the future of the club in your own way. But every experience, like you said, many experience in the game, you too, like me, every experience, good and bad, makes you the person that you are today and helps you
100%.
throughout your football career. So that's completely that was massive for me, honestly, to make me the person that I am today, with my successes and my failures too.
Yeah, 100%. I agree, mate. And that's similar in the sense that when I was an analyst at university, what you'd often get, because I was kind of the bridge between the manager and the players, because I was friends with the coaches, but also friends with the players. So it was kind of a complicated
me too.
kind of thing. Yeah. So you get a lot of stuff, because you speak to the managers a lot and the insider there. You'd meet up with the players and the players would ask you, why didn't I play today? What did I do wrong? And it's really important that, like you said, you don't just tell them, you tell them the truth, you need to do this better, you need to do that better. And some players would ask me, and they'd come up to me and they'd text me at the end of the game and they'd say, what did I do wrong? Why did I only play 20 minutes? And I'd say to them, you just need to keep doing what you're doing. You need to work hard at training. The manager isn't doing this because he hates you. He's doing it because he's got a decision to make. Try to put yourself in his position. I like the fact that you're confident and you think you should start. But obviously, if you improve in a certain way, you will start. He's got no agenda. Most coaches don't have agendas, and those that do don't have success. So that is one thing I really learned is, if a player is not happy or they don't understand, as an analyst in that situation, it's important that you are honest. You have to be honest and tell them. You can't just say, I don't know, I think you should have started. No, you've got to tell them this needs to improve. And then as an analyst, of course, maybe you can even show them clips where the manager wants you to do this in this situation. So go to training, do that, and I promise you'll start. And it happened 1 or 2 times with a certain player, and he ended up playing really well, and he started and then got on with the manager really well. This is the importance of team, right? This is the importance of being together and everyone understanding their role to help the greater good, which is winning football games and enjoying your time playing football, because that's what it comes down to, right? We started out playing football and we all enjoyed it. We loved it. That shouldn't change, whether you're a manager or a player. You need to love it, for me. I know supporting Leeds is very hard.
It's for the greater good, even that, when you said for the greater good, I'm a big fan of Harry Potter. It reminded me in the Deathly Hallows when they're talking about Grindelwald, and they said that his motto was for the greater good. So
that reminds
me.
me.
That's how I learned English.
Have you watched Hot Fuzz?
No, I don't think so.
No, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, great film. You need to watch it. People that have watched Hot Fuzz will know. They'll know the greater good reference. Anyway, we will talk about Leeds, and we're going to do that right now. That was a nice little introduction, 20 minutes as to just some little things about us. Leeds United, Andrea. And we're going to talk about a specific player to start with, Anton Stach. Now, before we get into it, I want to caveat by saying this. I think Anton Stach is a fantastic football player. The thing we're going to speak about next is not a detriment to him. It's the idea that because he's a good football player, he should do everything. That's our concern, I think, right? We're concerned about what he's doing. So we'll get into it. So the question I asked is, what is the difference between an 8 and a 6? Also, what is the difference between an attribute of a player and what the player has been told to do in a team? Because in my opinion, and I've seen all the stats about not Andrea, that's you, about Anton Stach now having the most chances created and all that. That's good. That shows that he's an excellent football player. No one's denying that. He's very, very good. But my concern with that is that's throwing emphasis on the fact that our forward players are not doing enough. That shows me that Anton Stach is the man that, in my opinion, is being told to do too much because the lack of quality around him. That's the worry for me. What do you think about that, Andrea?
Yeah, I agree with that. Honestly, we talked about it, and that's also similar to what I said. I think it shows that not just the attacking players in the front three, but also the other midfielders are not involved as much in creating chances, and that's worrying in a certain sense, because data wise is a good stat for Anton Stach, but it's a very bad stat on the other side for the other players, because we are seeing that the best threat creation comes from one of our two number eights, who is basically, for me, a number 6, and we'll talk about it. I'm gonna delve into that very shortly, but it's coming from a player that used to play in a very different role in Germany. He has arrived at Leeds, and Farke has decided to transform him because of his physical ability, his height, his capability to read the game, because he's clearly a playmaker, and he reads well the game off the ball where it needs to be and at the right time. But it also shows that we are basically relying offensively more right now in 3 games where we have really struggled to create chances and convert also chances, from the strikers to the wingers. We know last season we were a wing play side. Now we're trying to rely more on the midfield with this change between from 4-2-3-1 to 4-3-3. Now we rely more on the midfielders too to make a central run and advance their position, to create also space from the 9 going towards the ball and running behind from the winger too. So there's different threats. Last season was massively relying on get the ball to Solomon, get the ball to Dan James on one side and try to play the 1v1, or try to beat your man on the outside and cross it in the middle, where there was, for example, low ball, Pirot was a very good finisher in the championship with the amount of goals he scored. But what I'm worried about is that, okay, Stach, for me, looking at how he played in Germany, he was a very good number 6. Not very pacey, not much pace compared to others. But you remember when we did the scouting report on Joe's channel, when we talk about a number 8, I think he is very similar with his body type and structure to Patrick Osterhage of Freiburg, one of the players that I mentioned. And Osterhage plays both in the 8 for Freiburg and the 6. So I can see what Farke is trying to do. He wants to have an higher level of physicality and body types in midfield. But by doing that, we've seen that massively against Arsenal with Zubimendi going all around, followed by Stach like Beep Beep and Willy Coyote in the Looney Tunes. It was like that, unfortunately, because Stach was too high on the pitch with his positioning, and he struggled at times because of the different pace to track back. So I think Farke is trying to adapt a number 6 into a number 8, but he's not an out-and-out 8, a box-to-box 8 Stach. You see him like an advanced playmaker, a type of player that he's been missing for a lot in his sides recently at Leeds, but a type of player that he had actually at Norwich with Stiepermann, with Brancic, that type of tall number 10 that used to be the third man in midfield, also being an 8, when they were in possession. So he's trying to do that with Stach. And of course, he can be very technical, like an advanced playmaker when he advances his position when we are in possession, and he goes in the final third, to crowd behind, to occupy the area behind the striker, But it leaves us, on the other hand, very exposed, I think, when we play with the other two midfielders. So, yeah, it's a positive start for Stach, but I think a 50-50, like not that positive at all for our system, because it shows that the threat is basically bringing one player that is being adapted into a new position.
Yeah, and I did a video on the wingers the other day on my channel, and it shocked me how underperforming they are doing currently. I think I don't think they've had a single shot on target, mate. That's Dan James and Gnonto, to clarify, in 3 games. Not a single one. To me, that is horrific. And
horrific.
We'll get into them soon. But on Stach, it's for me, the problem is what he's doing. He is being the creator. And for me, a midfielder and the way we play and for the balance of the team, that's fine. But he has to add to the creative side of our team. He doesn't need to be it. He doesn't need to be the creator. He needs to add to it. What Stuyperman and Rantic did really well at Norwich, they added to the creativity. They were a threat in the box. They attacked the box when they had to. They could drive with it. Not, like I said, not quick, use the body well, quite press resistant, very good in that sense, which Stach is, very press resistant. Now, in my opinion. Now, the issue is, like I said, like you said, he's the only one doing that. He should be supplementing the creativity, not being the creator, right? That's the balance.
Yeah.
And that's like Star Wars, there's no balance in the Force, there's no balance in the side because he's the one doing it all, and that's my worry. That's my issue with the attacking players. It's almost like he's come to the Premier League and to be honest, I'll admit this, he's settled in better than I thought he would. I thought he'd take longer.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. He's settled in really well, but that's become over kind of expected of him now to settle into every game and be this guy who can do this. For me, the attackers need to realize how much he's doing, and the manager as well. Everyone needs to realize how much he's actually doing and look at themselves and go, should he be the only one that's creating? Because he is. He's the only one created, which is crazy. We lack that creator in midfield. We've said this for time. We needed to bring one in. We didn't. So he is doing that. Now, again, that's fine for him. And at the moment, we need that, let's be honest, because we don't have anyone else doing it. So I'm glad he's doing that in that sense. But we shouldn't be relying on him to do that. The wingers are a problem for me at the moment. Even the attackers at times, Calvert-Lewin when he gets fit, let's see. Okafor when he gets fit. But it's the balance in the midfield. Really good structurally, excellent midfield. I like the players we've got. But who centrally is a creator? That's my worry. Now, like you said with Stach, as a 6, what he was very good at, and this is where it comes into what the player can do, the attributes of the player compared to the role. As a 6, people assume a 6 is just someone who just sits there and passes it. That can be a profile, right? We've seen that. Calvin was outstanding at doing that, Stach isn't that profile. Stach's a 6 profile who positionally is excellent. He covers a lot of ground and he can drive forward, but he's very good at doing it selectively and he does it at the right time. Not a player that needs to do it in order to create for the team. That's not him. And that's what he's doing at Leeds. So that's my concern with how we started. We're 3 games in, and I get that. But in 3 games, for your wingers to realistically not create a single chance is not promising. So we'll that's Stach. Do you want to add on to Stach, mate, in the midfield, or you good with that?
Yeah. Just a quick one too. I think the fact that a 6 can be, I think Zubimendi or Mikel Merino can be qualified as number 6 too, but they are not your typical, your typical last line of defense like Calvin was, dictating the play with long balls to the sides, to the wingers, or like your playmaker in front of the defense. There's also different type of number 6, like Zubimendi moves a lot without the ball. Yeah, he's got pace. He's like, like Modric in a certain sense, they're very similar in terms of movement too. I think people don't classify Modric as a number 6. He's classified as a number 8 by many, but I think he's a 6 too, because he's for Croatia especially, he moves a lot without the ball, gets in the right spaces and passes the ball where the ball needs to go. Yeah. And that's the thing, he's a smart reader of the game. Stach can do that too. And Stach is a completely different number 6 from Ampadu and Gruev. Ampadu and Gruev are more on the old category like Calvin. in a certain sense. Stach is that type of modern profile, in a certain way. But the fact is that, he can carry the ball, but he's not that quick, advanced playmaker, in the final third. He can shoot, yes, he can. But I agree with you when you say we lack completely of a creative midfielder, because Tanaka, Longstaff, Stach, Ampadu, and Gruyev. When I'm looking at Tanaka, when I'm looking at Longstaff, and now at Stach in this new role, that they didn't play in Germany, because at Hoffenheim he was using a different information and he had different tasks, to carry out when they were in possession compared to what he does now. When I'm looking at them, what I see is that they are space creators, because with their movement, they help the team in the build-up, especially in the number 6. The 8 need to help the 6, and also help the wingers, because if a wingers gets stuck, imagine James gets stuck on the right, you need a pass option, and the pass option is either the ball back to, in this case, Bogle, or you get the ball back to Tanaka, and Tanaka can turn around and pass the ball to the 9, or pass the ball to the other 8 if he has advanced his position. You need multiple options, and they should be that. So they are space creators, but they are not mainly chance creators. All these type of players, they are not box to box in the way that I would have liked to see a player signed by Leeds. A proper box to box with creativity, a more offensive player. Maybe conceding something on the defensive end, but with creativity and capability to play in the 10-2. The other night, I watched Italy against Israel. We won 5-4, and there was, of course, Oscar Gloch playing. We know that he can play on the wing, he can play as a 10. I think he can play as a number 8 too, honestly, to be fair. And even Spursian watched a bit of Armenia Ireland during this international and the international break. I think we lack a player that is capable of advancing and not just passing the ball, but also trying to get with the ball into spaces and create opportunities, not just for himself to shoot, have a shot at the goal, but also get through balls to the wingers, trying to make the running behind with the direct opponent, or also interact, dialogue, do the 1-2 with the striker. A good example of that type of profile now is playing as a 8 for Juventus, but Theon Cup Miners with Atalanta used to be that type of profile, either as a 8 or as a number 10. We completely lack that, because Aronson in a 4-3-3, I don't know where he can play. They see him as a right winger, of course, but I don't think he's a right winger. For me, a right winger in the Premier League, as well as a left winger, of course, should be a 1v1 type of player, a player capable of challenging consistently with 1v1s, with pace, their direct opponent, And I don't think he's that player, but he's not the number 8 or number 10 creator that we need in this side, because he's not that physical, and he runs a lot, he presses a lot without the ball, but with the ball, his creativity still looks, in my point of view, His best creativity was at RB Salzburg, when he was playing going mainly on the left wing and playing with the striker. But yeah, I think we lack massively a creator, unfortunately, in midfield. And apart from that, the midfield still remains that the department in the team that we have strengthened the most, out of the 3. But we still lack a creator,
Yeah, a creator is key, and I just envision the midfield with Rodrigo, Salazar in there. I just imagine the balance in midfield you've got with Salazar, Ampadu, and Stach. That is, to me, that is almost perfect in terms of profile. Think about what you need in a midfield. You've just got everything there, haven't you? With Ampadu, Stach, and Salazar, someone like that, and obviously the names you mentioned as well. So, and there's one last thing on Stach before we move on. Like, it's the human aspect of it. Will he burn out? When you're doing this much every game, how many games is he doing it for? 38. He's going to be done by January. Genuinely, I know he's a physical. He don't get much injuries, and he's a physical lad and stuff. But playing in the Bundesliga and then the intensity of the Premier League is a complete another level. So, and being told to do what he's doing every game, the fact is he cannot do that for 38 games without injuries, without fatigue. No chance. So that's something we need to consider. Now, we touched on it earlier, the wingers, Andrea. The problem with the wingers, and specifically, I know you want to chat about Gnonto. I'll give a general overview of my opinion of the wingers, and I'll let you go in on Gnonto a bit on what you think about that. For me, and let me clarify by saying, when I was at uni, a lot of my analysis, because we were heavily reliant on wing play, a lot of my analysis was on the wingers. They were our best players as well. All our creativity came down wide. And the winger on the left, called Evros, who now plays in the Greek league, second tier, I believe, outstanding football player. Outstanding. Let me clarify. He's probably not watching, but what a guy. He's the one at the end of the game. He'd message me and he'd say, "What did I do well? Could you put clips together of my good stuff and my bad stuff?" Every game without fail. He's also messaged me after every game. "Have you got my goal?" Every time. "Send me my goal. Send me my goal." We lost, mate. We lost 4-1.
Yeah,
Why are you
that used
asking
to
for your
happen to
goal?
me too, man. They used to happen to me too every time, even if we had lost, even in the derby, some of them texted me because, of course, I had the contact with our photographer, so people say, "Do you have the photos of today?" So I can have them and post them on social media. I was just like, man, we just draw with minnows from Lombardy,
Yeah. Mate, footballers, they're unbelievable. But my
Yeah.
point being, I worked more than with anyone. And for my actual dissertation, I did a lot of work on wingers, working with wingers. So that's my thing. I'd like to believe I've got very good knowledge of wingers and I need to improve everywhere else. So for me, the most frustrating thing about wingers, and I don't care what the manager says you to do, I don't care about any of it. If you're one-on-one, beat your fullback. That is a winger. If you're not doing that, you're not a winger. That is the key role of a winger. It's like being a centre back and not being able to be good, not being good in the air. You're not a centre back, really, are you? It's like being a goalkeeper and not being good with your hands. You're not a goalkeeper. A winger was put into the game, is in the game to beat a fullback. They are the ones down the side that get down the side, and put the crosses in or tap the box. They're the ones that should exploit the defender. They're the ones that get you up the pitch. They're the ones that do the dribbles. That's who they are. So when it's so frustrating when we're in so many situations in all three games where both of our wingers have been one-on-one with a fullback, and instead of going on the outside where all the space is behind the fullback so many times, every time they decide to cut in. Now, I don't mind that sometimes. If you're doing a 1-2, you're creating a bit of space for the fullback, obviously, but we don't do that. It goes inside and it goes back because they've got 5 or 6 bodies in the way. It's that extra touch every time. That's my biggest gripe with wingers. All the work I did, all the analysis I did with wingers was showing situations where they could go one-on-one. And then in the game after, where they listen to your analysis and they go one-on-one and they beat the man, and you're going, how easy is that? The fact of the matter is, you're probably quicker than that fullback, right? You probably are. Beat him. We need them to do that. So I'll move it on to you, Andrea. My little rant about one-on-one and wingers. It's annoying.
No, I agree. I agree completely with that. I just wanted to say that I agree. I wanted to mention you this. I was picking my phone up here to read them. That we do a fantasy football league. In Italy, very different to FPL. So we did an auction for the players. Basically, it's me and 9 other friends. We've been doing this since 2012. So as wingers, I've picked up El Shaarawy, Sarmiento, Nicolas Kuhn, who used to be at Celtic, and Jayden Adai, who is just signed for Como from AZ Alkmaar. Yeah, very young player, under 20. So you have the clause for next season to retain his services. If he does well to the league rules. What do all these players have in common? They're 1v1 players. That's the thing, and I totally agree. The thing is, if I look at our wingers, a player that can play 1v1 is Gnonto. Okafor is going to play on the wing. I still think he's better as a number 9, to be fair, a versatile 9, falso 9, like they say in Spain. Addison, I think he's better when he receives the through ball and he has space in front of him to make the run like Goodmanson does at fullback, Aronson, I don't think he's a 1v1 player, He's a player that passes the ball and gets into spaces. That's what he needs to do. Passes the ball. Once you've passed the ball, sprint into the space to receive the pass back. I think he's that type of player. And another one, Dan James. Again, he can challenge the player, but what he does best that we've seen is trying to outpace the player going on the outside near the corner flag. to then make a cross, or make a fake cross, wait, and then cross with his left foot, like we see multiple times last season. The thing is, you needed better quality out there, for me. You needed better quality because Okafor, okay, we're playing him as a left winger. He's a 1v1 player, yeah, but they will need time to, first and foremost, retain his form because he really struggles with injuries. And another thing is the intensity in the Premier League. He's never faced that. He's never faced that intensity. We've seen that against even the intensity of English football. We've seen him struggling against, under 20 players at Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough, It's a completely different beast, the intensity of English football. That's why, players arrive and need time to adapt to it. And it's not immediate. So honestly, I thought we needed at least one signing there. I would have preferred another signing on the left too, apart from Okafor. They decided to sign Okafor, but Okafor, I would have signed him probably as a 9 if we hadn't signed him other players before him. But for me, it's really dangerous to see the season out with these wingers, because Gnonto was a reserve of Solomon and Dan James in the Championship. James, we see him struggling before at Premier League level because of the different intensity, and I think he's been the player that has struggled the most so far in these 40 games out of all the wingers starting. I mean, of course, but even Harrison, I think his game plan is very limited. When he has space, he's great because he can make the run. But if he needs to play the 1v1, he struggles because it's not his best rate, the 1v1. He's good in being in the right place at the right time, like he was at Brentford. I remember also a goal making the run with the ball against Newcastle during COVID. But we lack completely 1v1 attackers like Elanga, like Hudson-Odoi. Of course, not these specific players because they will never come to Leeds, but those type of profiles, Elanga.
Paixão was the one.
Paixão was the one. Where did Paixão go? He went to Marseille, but I mean, where did the plan B for Paixão go?
Yeah.
We went from Paixão to picking up a versatile 9 for me that wants to play as a left winger, basically. So again, it's an experiment for me in a new league because the intensity in Serie A, looking at the national team too, against Israel, they beat us with intensity, then we beat them with quality. That's the difference. Again, Norway scored 11 goals against Moldova. Italy only scored 2 goals against Moldova. Moldova had better intensity than Italy. The intensity of Serie A is miles behind the Premier League and English football, and that's what worries me, absolutely. But yeah, I think we'll touch on Gnonto and this Italian football discourse, maybe later on. But yeah, I think we completely lack 1v1 attackers there. Premier League quality 1v1 attackers that can start the game, because Gnonto is good, but I think he can be a sub in the Prem, same as James, same as all the others, honestly, to be fair, because Okafor is an experiment for me. I think he can be a good experiment, a successful experiment, but all the others, I don't think the starters are other teams, man, honestly, to be fair, for me.
Yeah, we will get on to Gnonto in a bit. Don't worry, in Italian football, we'll get on to that. It's yeah, for me, the frustration is, and I look at, for example, Crystal Palace and Ismail Assar at Crystal Palace, the winger.
Yeah.
Now, he's a player that I think is massively underrated. He's extremely good at 1v1. His end product's decent. He gets numbers in the Premier League every year, but he's also a player that can run in behind. So with a wing, you've got a winger there who they bought from Watford, right? Who was in the Championship, and he was all right there. He was in that team at the end of his thing. He was very good for a period. But now he's a player that's just found his form. He's got up to the level of the league, the intensity, and he looks like a top winger at this level every time I watch him. And he's a really underrated player, in my opinion. That's a profile we miss. Now, you mentioned Dan James, and you're right. Dan James is better when he's attacking space. When he's running at that fullback without the ball, the fullback's finished. Right? If the ball through's good, Dan James will get on the end of it. Then it's about the end product. Is it good or is it bad? But one-on-one, Dan James's issue, he slows down too much. He's a guy who's really quick. When he approaches a defender, he almost stops. And I know in theory he's trying to stop to entice the defender, then use his pace. But to me, they already know what he's going to do. And that's the thing with Dan James. He needs more tools in his shed. Like, if I'm a winger and I'm going up against a fullback, he honestly, even a little drop of the shoulder, he don't do it enough for me. You know he's going on the outside. And when he cuts on the inside in the Prem, he's not a threat. So defenders are all right with that, at this level. In the Championship, it worked really well. I'm not going to discredit him. It did. It was excellent. But these teams, they're not bothered about that. So they know he's going on the outside. So this is where you need to find more. And for me, even if it's approaching the defender, go a little quicker, do a little ball roll, do something to make the defender advance into, entice the defender, because he doesn't, he stops and then tries to go 100%. And these defenders, they're really powerful, they're quick, they're strong, they'll read that and they'll get the body in front of it. And with Gnonto, as I mentioned, I don't know, I've seen him do it, Andre. This is the frustrating thing. When he first came to Leeds, he did that. That's the annoying thing with me. I've seen him do it. Obviously, you've seen him more as well, and he's from Italy, so you'll know much more. But when he first came to the Premier League and he kind of had that freedom in the team and no real pressure, right? The young man that came in, who were terrible anyway. I loved what I saw from him. He was direct, really direct. He'd take his man on. I can't remember who it was. When we played against City and a few other teams. And it was like, wow, this guy's just, the fullback can't get near him. But then at the end of it, there was a shot. We're missing that. What we're seeing now, I think it's a lack of clarity. For me with wingers, and this is something I experienced as well, it's mindset. I went for a long period where I got turned into a fullback because of this, by the way. I overthought 1v1 situations. It's that easy that you kind of overthink it. You think it can't be that easy, but it is. If you're a winger, an adult winger, you're there because you're quick and you're direct. You do it in training. I'm sure Gnonto will do it in training. He'll take his defender on every week in training. It's the mindset. Wingers all about mindset, mate. It's all about confidence in a 1v1 situation. If you can find that, you're unstoppable. If you're a player that loses that confidence in 1v1. So if Dan James goes up against Timber at Arsenal and he's going, this guy's decent. This guy's decent. I've got to do more. You don't. It's so simple. Football's simple
Even
like that.
Calafiori too was not a natural left back too, because at Bologna, he used to play as the left centre back too, with Lukumi. Then he switched, because they had Victor Christiansen. Now I think he's moved to Nottingham Forest from Leicester City. So he's not his natural position. Now he's playing there at Arsenal because they have more offensive players up the pitch, so they needed more defensive minded, like Ben White, like Calafiori, on the other side. But when you have Calafiori, you're faster than him. Try to attack him.
Yeah,
he never did.
Football's that easy, mate, in the wide areas to me. And I get that these defenders, they know what you're going to do, but a lot of the time, if you're quicker than them, it doesn't matter. Put that ball ahead, get onto it. Even if you do like a little jink, drop the shoulder, go the other way, just to trick them, just to make them stumble, that's when you've got to advance. And our wingers don't do that for me. They're too obvious. They overthink 1v1 situations, and I think they need to stop doing that. Now, that's the difficulty. We need to get them to stop doing that. Because in my opinion, if we're staying up, we need them to stop doing that. I think it's key. We need more from our wingers. So that's the frustration that I have with wingers as well. And this is not me saying, this is just my opinion. This is not me saying that, this is what I'm trying to say is, I'm saying this to say this is how they could improve. And you don't need to be a footballer to know how we can improve. People always say that. They always go, well, what would you know? You're not very good. You're not very good. We watch the game a lot. You read the game, you research the game, you know what it takes. And it's all relative to level. But when I stopped taking people on as a winger, it's because I overthought it. When I was younger, it was all natural. When I'm at training, it's natural. I don't overthink it. There's no pressure. There's no consequence to losing it. Whereas in games, for whatever reason, there was a block in my head and I overthought taking people on. And I wouldn't commit to it. I wouldn't commit to the first 5-yard sprint for whatever reason. So that's it for wingers. For me, it's a whole mentality thing. And they need to figure it out, because this is my opinion. You might disagree, Andre. I know. Yeah, we'll talk about Gnonto next. For me, I really do like Gnonto in the sense that I think he can give us more than he's got. what his ceiling is and what he could actually give us, that's the debate, right? I guess. But I do think he's looked lively, he's looked busy. I think positionally he's looked really good this season. My issue with it is the decision making on the ball. That's been my key problem. So yeah, that's kind of it for the wingers. Now let me just check my notes because I'm a bit terrible at this. One very quickly, mate, before we talk about the last 2 or 3 things. What can we do right now as a team to be more creative?
That's an interesting question. I think that's a question that Farke that's been going on for a while. I thought patching Farke's head, to be fair, because I think ultimately it's down to quality, but you can try to change something in the formation. The problem is that for me, lacking that creative midfielder really doesn't help us in terms of trying to switch a formation and help the wingers to get more involved, Because if the ball doesn't get to Mecha, to Piro, to Calvert-Lewin, what the midfielders do, they don't try to make a central run. They just advance and pass the ball to one of the wingers to play the 1v1. The problem is that if you don't switch the side quickly to create the advantage of one side, or you just get the through ball or try to play the ball into the space to create a situation of attacking threat for the winger, then our wingers, what they do is they spin around and pass the ball back, or pass the ball back to the midfielder, and that's a threat because statically in a situation where their side of the pitch, their wing is covered, they don't try the 1v1, or they don't try, or rarely they do actually, to pass the ball to the 8. Like for example, on the right, James gets blocked, is encircled. He rarely passes the ball to Tanaka and then sprints him behind, because on the first touch, Tanaka can put the through ball to him. I've seen us rarely do that so far in the season.
I agree.
Because otherwise, if you had a different quality, different kind of threat on the wings, maybe Okafor will try to do that, knowing the type of player that he is, in short spaces, very narrow spaces. We don't have a player that is capable of dribbling past the defenders in narrow spaces. Gnonto can do that, probably, but the problem for me is that the best we've seen from Gnonto is in his first season in the Premier League when he arrived from Zurich. Firstly, as a under 23 player, just Jesse March suggested, but after that, he became one of the best players. Probably the 2 best players, along with Tyler Adams, that season were Somerville and Gnonto, of course, despite a lot of ups and downs because they were very young at the time. Now Gnonto is 21. He's not another 21 player anymore because his age group is over now for Italy under 21. The problem is that the best stuff we've seen from him is 3 seasons ago. It was 3 seasons ago. 3 seasons have passed. I don't think he has improved since then. I think there's there was a crossroads in his career where you see a player before ending in the transfer request to go to Everton in the summer after relegation. There was a player before, and there was a player after that. He had some good performances in the Championship, but if you see the number of minutes played from the wingers in the last 2 seasons, the first 2 seasons you have Somerville on one side and James on the other, and then you have Manor Solomon on one side and then James on the other. So there were always better wingers in terms of efficiency and consistency than Gnonto. And now you find yourself with Gnonto as, I think, the first choice probably on the right when Okafor is fit, when he was a substitute in the Championship. And I think in the Championship he had some good performances. I remember in the second part, I had a good run on games before the playoffs. I remember a good goal at Bristol City, for example. But after that, I don't think he's improved. I think he has regressed. He was very clinical, very in-your-face mentality. He had that in-your-face mentality, that anger when he first came to Leeds. I remember a goal against West Ham, and again the 2 ones against Man United.
Yep.
Where has that player gone? Because I have not seen him doing that consistently since then. And that's the problem. I think one of the good decisions that he made was changing the agent, because I think that transfer request didn't help him. Because maybe the agent said, "Oh, you were capped by Italy, so you are already here." He was here. He still needed time to be that type of player. You know, Arwood Bellis, Walker Peters. Walker Peters had been capped by England. James Justin had been capped by England, but they stayed in the championship with Leicester City. Walker Peters with Southampton. You know, even Ward-Prowse at the start played 2 games with Southampton in the championship. So I think he didn't help him. And the fact is, I wasn't impressed by him when I've seen him play recently with the under-21s with Italy. He was the most experienced player, but I wasn't impressed by him, honestly, in a different role too, because he plays as a second striker too. I wasn't impressed. I was impressed by other players, and that's a pity, honestly. That's a pity because we know the talent that he has and what he can do.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And I go back to mentality of it. It's kind of like in what's it called in golf, where is it the yips? Is that the word?
I don't watch golf, honestly. It's like the other sport that you see,
like
cricket,
darts,
the other sport.
cricket, where you have shaky hands, and every time you go up to do it, your hands are shaking. It's something like that, and you can't get rid of it. It's a mentality thing. It's there now. It's kind of like that for wingers in the sense that it's hard to get back to what you were. Genuinely, it is. You've seen it with wingers, you've seen it with Sancho. How good was he at one point? And he's never found that. Look at him on the ball in 1v1s. He looks hesitant, not confident, overthinking it. The best wingers in the world, everything's just natural, and they keep that mentality all the way through the career. Arjen Robben is a perfect example of a player that you knew exactly what he was going to do. He knew exactly what he was going to do, but he never hesitated. There was no hesitation in what he was doing. So even as a left back, when he's cutting in, you know he's going to cut in, but by the time you thought he's going to cut in, he's already done it. You know, his quick feet, he's not took too many touches. He's already cut inside, and by the time you've reacted, he's got a shot off and it's gone in the top corner. You know, so Arjen Robben, growing up, was someone that I watched that went, I want to replicate what he's doing. I love what he does, the way he plays. So, and that Gnonto, for me, when he does cut inside, he still gets in some all right positions when he does it at times, but he takes an extra touch. There's an opportunity, there's loads of opportunities this season already, where it's been on the edge of the box, and you're saying, right, now shoot, now shoot, now shoot. And he just keeps hesitating. He'll take an extra touch, and then there's 5 or 6 defenders in his way, and it's been blocked 5 yards in front of him, right? It's them little things that matter to me from a winger, and it's those little things that him and Dan James and Okafor need to sort out. Because I think the key players for us in the sense that they're our wingers, and that's where our creativity is. So that needs fixing. So yeah, that's well, go on. Sorry.
We have that type of player, yeah, last season. Now he's gone to Villarreal because he wanted to play in the UCL apparently, but seeing Maron Solomon again play against Italy, you know, was very good. He was really fit, really on form. After a long injury during the summer too. Honestly, at least Solomon tried to challenge his opponent, pass the ball. He was an all-around player, and when he had the opportunity to shoot, you know, he shot. So yeah, seeing him against Italy again, I said, oh, we had that type of player and look better than all the wingers that we currently have at the club, unfortunately for us. But yeah, what can we do about it? He wanted to play at an higher level apparently. So yeah, we just have to applaud him now and focus on our current wingers, you know.
Yeah, we need Okafor to stay fit, Matt Sharp.
Yeah.
We need Gnonto to improve, and we need Dan James to improve. It's as simple as that, to be honest. And I know we're not speaking about Jack Harrison, but for me, he's come on and done the role he's expected to. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
He's not a one. I don't expect it from him to be a one-on-one winger because he's never been that. Those other guys, I actually expect him to do it. I think they can do it, but they need to find that. But anyway, yeah, Italian football, Andrea, what's going on?
A lot, honestly, a lot. At least we got Gattuso. Honestly, I had doubts about the appointment, honestly, because after the sack of Spalletti, I was really awful about Spalletti. But you know, I've realized the difference between being a national team manager and a manager throughout the season. Because there's managers that work better throughout the season because they see their players and work with them every single day. While on the other hand, when you are a national team head coach, you need to select the players. And I think if I were a national team manager, I would pick the best players every time. On the other hand, there's national team managers that pick the players better suited to their system. Like I've seen, a lot of complaints by the Serbs. Yes, from the after the game against England, the 5-0 at the Maracana. People say, "Oh, see, Stojkovic, their manager, picking the players that suit his system, while leaving out other players, like he's leaving out Villar because he had a role with him. But yeah, I think there's different schools of thinking in that regard. But yeah, we have talent. The problem is that we don't have intensity. We don't. I think fitness wise, we are way behind the other leagues. I think we definitely need to bring in fitness trainers from the UK or Germany to teach what they do to Italian football, because I think the culture here is way behind. Every international break, or at least international break, because in the UCL and the Europa League, you see that the foreign players playing in Italian teams, they look sharper than Italian players,
Right.
because I think they have a different mentality and that they bring in to Italy too when they sign for a club. And there's also foreign managers in certain clubs. But with the national team, I think we are always way behind. I remember against North Macedonia, we looked worse than them with fitness when we lost the World Cup place, the World Cup playoff. Against Moldova was at the stadium, we look way behind them against a team formed by players playing in the Romanian league, the Moldovan league, and players playing in the Italian Serie C, the third tier. So at least we got the Gattuso now. You see the fighting spirit back.
Yeah.
And it brought a different change now with the 4-4-2, basically, with the Retegui and Ken up front. Finally, like it always was in Italian football. I remember Toni and Totti, Toni and Gilardino, Vieri and Del Piero, Inzaghi and Totti, Vieri, all these kind of players, We always have had good striking partnerships, Finally, two strikers up front. I thought at one point it was an offense, a legal offense to deploy two strikers up front, because we see it like in modern football, it is not allowed to play two strikers up front. Always see 4-2-3-1 with a lone striker. Every side plays with basically one striker up front, but it's better with two with this current squad. The problem with our current players, like Gnonto at Leeds, there's a lot of players better than him on his side, because Politano is doing well for Napoli. You have Orsolini on his side, better than him. On the other side, Zaccagni. Chiesa will come back eventually into the national team. There's Coleosho doing very well with the under-21, so I don't see a future, honestly, for him with Italy right now at the minute.
Do you, well, I guess you just answered it. Do you think he can make it back there?
I struggle to see it, honestly, because there's he's never mentioned by the press, to be fair. I've seen discussions about Chiesa not being picked for this international break, because he started well with Liverpool, excluded from the UCL list, of course, but when he played, he's done well, I think, compared to last season, and it's always a plus, the minutes that he plays this season. I've seen people talking about Leone, who's just signed for Liverpool. Remember when we talked about him, it was like, I think 3 months ago, and I said to you, I think if we were to sign a young player, there's this young player at Parma, and then he went to Liverpool like 2 months, 2 months later, Yeah. But yeah, never a discussion about Gnonto. Calafiore, of course, one of the pillars of the national team. So, of course, there's no discussion about him. He should be in the team. But there's never a discussion about Gnonto. And honestly, in the last 2 seasons, there was never a discussion about the potential transfer to Italy. Because, like I always said, I don't think there's a club in Italy that would pay 20 or 20 plus million to get him. Because I think there's better players in Serie A, better suited to this style of football. I think the best style of football for Gnonto should be the Bundesliga for me. Or La Liga, for the way he plays. because
Yeah.
the spaces are larger.
Mm.
There's less narrow spaces like in the Premier League. The intensity suits more players that want to play starting wide a 1v1 situation. I think Gnonto will honestly will do very well in the Bundesliga. Like Grifo, Grifo is over 30. He's like 34, 35 now. Vincenzo Grifo at Freiburg used to be involved during the Mancini era in the national team. That type of player, I think if Gnonto was playing right now, were to play in the Bundesliga, he will do very well there because of the type of football they play there. But in the Premier League, the intensity is you receive the ball, you instantly have a player on your tail or in front of you. So you need to be quicker with your decision making. Right now, honestly, for what he's seen, he's rarely mentioned. And all that in Leeds, they think like he's the next talent of Italian football. I rate his talent, but he needs to get back to 22, 23 to that level because he's shown that he can be at that level. He just needs to work to get back to those level. But right now, honestly, I don't think there's a spot open for him in the national team. He will need to assemble great numbers in the Premier League to get noticed again. I think by Gattuso. Because right now there's a lot of good talk around Coleosho, especially he's become the captain of the under-21s right now, and I can see honestly Coleosho being called up if he does well for Espanyol to the national team before Gnonto. Unfortunately for Willie.
Well, it's not unfortunate. It's on him, right? That's down to him to push himself back into that situation. I think he could be good enough. Like you say, if he's what he was when he first came to us, you'd expect now that he'd be much better player than that. But the fact is, he's not. That is sad. It is. But look, I one thing I never do, mate, and I've learned this from doing everything I've done in football. I don't give up on players ever. I never do.
Yeah,
unless they're like
absolutely.
38, unless they're old and the legs have gone, But never give up on players. He's so young. He's got a lot to learn, and you never know. I want to come here. I want to come in here in 6 weeks and go, right, Gnonto's finally starting to do what we know he can. That's
I
what
hope
I
so.
want to have.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too, mate. But very quickly, before we go, we're going to do a little, because we like to do recruitment, we like to watch players and stuff like that. We're going to do a little thing. So, one creator, Andrea, that we should have added to this team.
I think Sperzian, the Armenian. Honestly, I've watched him against Ireland too. I think he was also viable. I know that there was the morale and the topic, the discussion, the debate about signing a player from a Russian club, because that many clubs there like Spartak, Zenit with Gazprom. There's many clubs that are connected with the state in a certain sense, and Krasnodar. I don't know the specific situation too. But I remember that they had the stadium redone for. They opened a new stadium for the World Cup in 2018. At least there was not a problem with him because he has both a Russian and Armenian passport, but he's Armenian. Basically, he's born in Russian by an Armenian family. There was also another good player born in Russia by an Armenian family, by Ramyan, years ago. He used to play for Rostov, I think, or Lokomotiv Moscow, I can't remember. But yes, Pertsian, I think he was very under the radar. I've seen the discussions about, we need to spend wisely. Yeah, I think it was a wise expenditure, that one.
Yeah.
On Sperzian, because he can play as a 8 too, with his body type. He can play as a 10, as a 8. I would have liked Glock too, but he went to Ajax, so I think it was it would have been difficult to get him, honestly, because Ajax, when Ajax called you, they play in Europe. You go there, and and there's also a good connection. The history about they had many good connection with there's a good place to be for Glock. I think that they had other Israeli players in the past and did well there, so they have a good tradition, even for the history of Ajax. We call it Ajax here in Italy. I think it's Ajax in the UK.
Ajax, yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Ajax. So I think it will do well there. They are called Super Joden, I think, the one of the assumed names of Ajax. But yeah, I think Spursian would have been the one under the radar. I don't know about you, about the creator, but yeah, that would have been the number 8 for me. And yeah, the other twos, I would have liked Demirovic and Spursian. But as a right winger, to be fair, Diego Lopez, Avi Lopez, sorry. No, not Avi Lopez. I don't remember if it's Diego or Javi. The Lopez playing at Valencia. I think Avi Lopez is playing at Real Sociedad. I think it's Diego Lopez.
Diego,
or Jorge de Frutos, who was just made his debut for Spain too from Rayo Vallecano, right winger. These three, honestly. Yeah.
That I'm not going to bop it. I've done my videos, so the people can go look at them. But there's one name I want to mention, and it's I forgot his name. It's Maxim Glushenkov at Zenit St. Petersburg. Now, I think I mentioned him in one of our chats, Andrea. When I was watching Spurs and Jan for when we were linked to him, he played against Zenit, and what was this guy? So that's what I mean. Scout, you just watch a player and you don't expect it. He's a second striker, can play on either wing, and has played a lot deeper as well. He's such an underrated player. I've never heard of him before this. I don't know if ever he's 26 now. So I don't know why. He's very good. If anyone's not watched him, if you can see highlights, I don't know if there's highlights on YouTube. But he's such a very talented player. He's so technical, but a player that plays with such a high intensity. So he's an underrated gem in Europe for me that could have solved maybe some of our problems. But they're just some names I want to mention. Is there anything else you want to?
No, I think it's unfortunate because I'm glad you mentioned him because talking about Spursian, Glushenko, these kind of players, they're still good players in the Russian league.
There is, yeah.
I just read a piece, like 3 days ago, about the state of the Russian national team because, of course, as you know, they have been excluded after the invasion of Ukraine in 2022 by FIFA and UEFA. Of course, they tried to, I think, sign up for the AFC in Asia, but they were blocked by FIFA basically to do that until the war is going on, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. But this piece, was highlighting the fact that scouts basically are not covering the Russian league anymore, because of course many clubs see that as an ethical problem. The fact that you should, spend money and give money to clubs that, in a certain sense, are connected to the state in Russia. So that's why I think that's one of the reasons, and one of the other reasons is that the league. I think the level in terms of money value has dropped massively, around 200 million since the start of the 2022 phase of the Russian-Ukrainian war, because of course many players have left. From there, there's still South American players, especially Brazilians, are in for Zenit. Other players from other Eastern European sides, but scouts don't look at the league anymore because of the of obvious reasons. But there's still good players there to find, and in the end, it's just playing football. But the consequences and the fact that that some clubs are linked to institutions in the state. So that's also why I think the scouts, for the ethical reasons, have stopped to follow that specific league, apart from certain players like Spursian plays for Armenia. So they've seen him in the UEFA qualifiers, I think, first, and then after that they went and watched him playing for Krasnodar, because I think the first time they've seen him scouts was him playing for Armenia. That's my opinion, honestly, because he played in the qualifiers. Because otherwise, I don't think he would have been noticed playing in the Russian league, to be fair. Because I think only the one Zakarian playing for Real Sociedad recently moved from Russia to a European club. I can remember others, doing a direct transfer for them for there. Now there's a lot of talk about Spresian because, in my opinion, he was cited first when he played for Armenia in the UEFA qualifiers. That's what I think.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, Luis Enrique as well, mate. Is Henrique, sorry, the Brazilian winger, who still gets calls up for Brazil and he's still playing in Russia. It blows my mind. There is some good. You just go through the squad list and you go, oh, he's decent. Why is he there? So there's a lot of reasons and stuff like that. But that's. I think we'll wrap it up there, mate. 1 minute 15. That's what I expected, to be fair. I've got work, unfortunately. Oh, not fortunate. I love coaching, so I shouldn't say unfortunately. But for the sake of the chat, I have work. So
players treated well. Listen to the manager. Listen to the
Absolutely.
gaffer.
They don't, mate. Tell you what, this is what I will say: that the 14 to 16-year-olds listen to you more than the 5 to 8-year-olds. Nightmare, absolute nightmare. Honestly, children. Anyway, you enjoyed it
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
Bit messy,
100%.
but I think we hit
No,
all the
no, it's
topics
fine.
we
It's
wanted
fine
to.
like this. I think you have certain topics that we wanted to cover. We covered them all, but there's also other topics, that emerge. Maybe I got carried away a bit, about a specific situation around the scoutings leaving the Russian Leeds because of course, geopolitical reasons. My passion for history and
Absolutely, yeah.
geopolitics. Yeah. So maybe we'll talk
That's
about
fine.
history of football too. Maybe the players that we
Yeah.
like in the past too, in the future. So who knows? The sky's the limit, like
Yeah.
Tupac said. Yeah, not
Yeah.
Biggie. It was Tupac, I think.
Tupac,
I need to
yeah.
do. I need to do. To re-listen again to the songs, because I was a big fan of Tupac and Biggie, but it's been a lot
Same,
of
man.
time
Yeah.
since listening to them songs. Eat them up. That kind of songs. Those kind of songs.
Great.
Big Papa, yeah.
Oh, R.I.P. to them too, eh? What legends! Imagine if they were still alive. By the way, oh my god.
Yeah.
Imagine how different the music scene would be. Anyway, that's another conversation. But yeah, we'll talk about stuff like say favorite players and stuff like that. Yeah, some might be very shocked at mine. None of them are English. So yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there, mate. I've got to go to work. I'm sure what you're doing out today. You busy? You've been at work.
Yeah,
haven't you?
I need to. Yeah, I've been to work this morning too before going back home to do this. But yeah, I will refocus on my other projects than training in the evening. Cause now that good days are back. Got my watt bike, trying to maintain my
Oh
routine.
yes. Love it.
Now that I've been stopped. I've been stopped after I did my surgery, like in 2023. I was I wasn't been able to train for 5 months. So yeah, I need to get back into my best shape. And it's been a lot of time since when I was playing basketball. Actually, I think it was the last time I was in my proper shape that I want to be. But yeah, it's there's still time. So yeah, time to get
Still
back to
young,
like what
mate.
it is. Yeah, still young. We are the same age, by the way.
Yeah, we are, which is weird. Same September, right?
Yeah,
Birthday.
tomorrow actually.
Yeah.
12th.
Oh, is it?
The 12th.
It's 12.
Yeah, the 12th. Yeah.
That's
The
crazy.
30s are approaching. Yeah, 29 tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, they are scary. Anyway, everyone, I hope everyone enjoyed this chat. Honestly, if anyone's got any topics as well that you want us to speak about,
True.
go for it. Whatever that may be, whatever anything you want to know, anything, just let us know. Honestly, I know this isn't national break, so there won't be as many eyes on it, but we wanted to just get it out there, get it on, see what happens, and then. But yeah, anyway, I'm blathering on. I'll see everyone in a bit. Thank you for watching, everyone. Everyone's legends as usual. Bye bye.
Bye bye.